This is The Actor and the Engineer. Welcome. My name is Paul James. I come from the acting background.
And I'm Josh Knapp. I'm a broadcast engineer.
Here we go.
All right. Today we're going to talk about two movies that are readily available on either Netflix Watch Instantly or Redbox.
Yeah, let me just say something really quick. Last week's show was our 25th show.
Yeah, that's right.
So
I didn't even think of it that way.
Mini milestone. So congratulations.
All right. Congratulations to you.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I just put it up and I was like, yeah. 25, whatever.
Well, when I was thinking about this week's show, I went and looked at something, and I'm always checking Twitter and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, 25. Oh, well, that's, a significant wedding anniversary. So,
That's
if
true.
it was like 100 or 200 or 500, maybe we would have like a little party here and other people here, maybe. But, 25, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, great. That's awesome. Cool. So we're going to talk about two movies, but before we talk about those movies, I'll just name them real quick. First one we'll talk about is The One I Love, which it stars Mark Duplass and Elizabeth Moss. And the second one is Wish I Was Here, starring Zach Braff, also directed by Zach Braff.
Yeah, can we actually do it opposite? Can we do Wish I Was Here first?
That's
and then
fine.
Okay.
That's fine. I'm excited to talk about The One I Love because I saw it last night.
Yes.
So I'm just really excited.
And we talked about this one in the trailer episode, right? You had
Yeah.
recommended it, and then I watched the trailer, and I go, what is this about? I got to see it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. But before that, I want to talk about a couple of things. Guardians of the Galaxy just came out on Blu-ray. And so I watched it last night with Steph. She hadn't seen it. And she hasn't listened to the podcast because there's a bunch of spoilers too. But she really enjoyed it, which I pretty much knew that she would. But that also led me into the rabbit hole of like checking what all these guys are doing and watching all the extras and stuff. And I found out that Bradley Cooper is doing Elephant Man on Broadway.
I told you.
You told me about that on
Remember?
the podcast.
Yes.
That's right. Okay.
Yes, he's redoing it. This is the
Okay.
second time. Did you see I downloaded that to Twitter and to our Facebook page?
Okay, that's right.
David Bowie did do it on Broadway too.
That's
I'm not
right.
sure if he originated the part,
Uh-huh.
but I downloaded or I put all that stuff on Facebook and Twitter after we talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Shows how much you go to Facebook and Twitter, sir.
I'm horrible at that. But see, if I'm
Everybody
never-
else goes,
But
but
if I'm
Josh,
never there,
yeah.
you can't expect me to be there.
I understand.
It
I understand.
totally works
yeah, no,
out for
that's
me.
It's funny. We're from two different generations, but I'm more adept or more comfortable at doing it than you do. You do
Yeah.
all the technical engineering stuff for the show.
love that stuff.
I do all the Twittering
The
and
social,
tweeting. Yeah, the
yes.
social media. There you go. Yeah, so he's redoing it, and Patricia Clarkson is in the cast also.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be
Man.
something else. And there was a picture of him. Remember how I told you how they come out on stage and they go into the contortion of the Elephant Man's body?
That's right,
Yeah.
yeah.
I saw a thing with Bowie and how he went into it a long time
Mm-hmm.
ago. And I thought my memory was serving me right. And you see a picture of Bradley Cooper when he takes the stage and he looks
Mm-hmm.
just like Bradley Cooper. And then when he manipulates his body into looking like the Elephant Man, it's just a facial expression and a body contortion. It's really interesting to
That's
watch.
so cool.
Yeah, very cool. So I'm
And then-
glad.
Yeah, and then so on top of all of this Marvel stuff that's happening now, Doctor Strange was just announced, and it's Benedict Cumberbatch.
Which makes perfect sense.
And that's what he was rumored to be, the Doctor Strange. But then I just listened to a podcast with him today, and it was the Nerdist podcast. He did an interview with those guys, and he is going to be starring in Richard III in London.
Amazing.
And so I thought you might be
Yeah.
interested in that. I've never seen Richard III. I've not even seen the film version. Wasn't there an Olivier
Yes.
version of it?
There's also an Ian McKellen version with Annette Bening and Robert Downey Jr., if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And he's very good. Well, it's Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
It's Gandalf.
Yeah.
And I told you how he's the one who kind of taught me Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm.
My English teacher in high school put on a DVD, well, not a DVD at the time, a PBS special, I guess, videotape.
VHS,
Yeah, I guess. And it was Ian McKellen going from different Shakespeare monologues, different sonnets, different things. And he's the one who clicked my ear into it. And I really didn't pay attention to him much. And then I believe actually, he got an Oscar nomination for Richard III.
Okay.
No, maybe not. Maybe not. I think he only has two, Gods and Monsters and The Lord of the Rings, the first one. But anyway, he was phenomenal in the movie version. If you want to see a great version, see that version.
See that one
Yeah.
instead of the Olivier version? Or,
Well, I mean, I've never seen it. I've only
Okay.
heard speeches from each of those
okay.
versions.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I thought that was kind of cool, and he also talked about his parents were both actors, and his dad did a play called Sounds Off. Sounds Off. Have you ever heard of that?
Noises Off? I've heard.
Noises Off.
Yes,
That's
it's a
what it
farcical
is.
comedy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's like a farce about a farce
Yes.
or something. He said.
Yes.
That sounds totally interesting to me, and I'm like, I don't know how to see that.
you would love it because remember we were talking about at Birdman during the movie Birdman that you got to see bird's eye view of the theater and then you got to see what was going on backstage. This actual play, the set spins so you can see what's going on. It's about a bunch of actors putting on a play and everything that could go wrong will go wrong, does go wrong.
That's
all
cool.
this stuff goes on.
Oh,
They
man.
made a movie version of it and it's okay. It's got a strange cast. I think Mary Lou Henner is in it and Christopher Reeves is in it. And it's one of those things when you're watching somebody come in one door and go out another door live in the theater, you're in on the joke. So you know that door is going to open at any second and there's a cheating husband and is he going to get caught? Or he's not really cheating. He's sort of flirting with the maid. Is he going to get caught? In a movie, it's hard to pull that off because when you're watching it face on, you're like, oh, here he comes. Oh, no, she's right there. Don't go that way. So
Yeah.
you'd love it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
I'd be excited to see it, but I mean, yeah, if there's a movie version of it, that's probably the only way I'd be able to see it, unless
I don't know.
it comes
Netflix
around.
has a lot of plays on.
Really?
Yes, they do.
Oh, okay.
I saw Judi Dench's first performance of a Chekhov play back when she was, I think, maybe 17, 18 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, it's black and white. It's kind of hard to watch because it's just a straight on.
Static shot.
Yeah,
of-
exactly.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then on top of all of that, there was a rumor that Al Pacino may be in a Marvel movie at some point because he said he really enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy, and so there's a whole another bunch of people that are saying like, what could he be?
And what are they saying? Mysterio for Spider-Man?
Yeah, and there were a couple of other ones.
Mysterio?
And then also the
wasn't-
Mandarin, possibly, but there's already Ben Kingsley, so it'd be
Oh,
weird.
they need to
no,
redo
but
it again.
It'd be the real Mandarin because Ben Kingsley's just
Yeah.
an actor.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
I loved it.
Come on now.
I loved it, but I don't have the comic book background that you do, so I liked it.
Let's stay with the positive.
There we
on
go.
This one.
All right, and then the last thing I wanted to talk about was James Bond. I'm a huge Bond fan. We haven't really talked about James Bond.
Yeah, we have.
That-
Not that much, but yeah, we
as
have.
far as like older Bonds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so
Remember,
where
I grew
are
up
you-
watching them.
Okay, so you like the Daniel Craig ones, right?
I have
But-
no problem with the Daniel Craig ones. I loved Skyfall. I thought it was a great way to reinvent it by going back to the basic and doing the actual stunts in camera. I
Yeah.
loved all that. Sam Mendes, you can't go wrong. Daniel Craig, I thought he was great. He has the demeanor and attitude of Bond. But I grew up watching all the Sean Connery ones on TV. It was a special event, because back in the day, you only saw it once a year. It's not like they could replay it over and over again. And then, but in the movie theater, it was the Roger Moore ones.
Yeah.
So Moonraker with Jaws and and I really enjoyed GoldenEye and I really enjoyed a couple of the Pierce Brosnan ones. Actually think I've seen all of the films, but
Okay.
I will say this: I have not seen the first Daniel Craig one.
You're kidding.
I know. Everybody
So
said
that
my
movie,
brother thinks I'm insane.
Casino Royale. I walked out of the theater, and the buddy I was seeing it with, I said, "That's the best James Bond movie," and I stick by it today, even though I said it right after. I was like, it could change, but for me, and I think these three movies that they've made so far have gotten us to the point where right now we are ready for the next movie, which they just announced this week. It's directed by the same director, Sam Mendes.
Smart.
Written by the same people, Purvis and Wade and John Logan, who came in like after those guys, and he basically, I'm not gonna say basically a bunch this week. He came in and fleshed out a few things, kind of like Paul Haggis did with Casino Royale, and so those guys are all working on it together again. The cinematographer last time was Roger Deakins, who is an amazing cinematographer. He works with the Coen brothers all the time. He did Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And Fargo. He's done a bunch of amazing movies. I believe that he did Jesse James.
Oh yeah, which I
Assassination
thought
Jesse
was
James.
beautiful looking.
Yeah. In fact, that was the year he got nominated for two Academy Awards.
And
He's
didn't
never
win.
won an Academy
Yeah.
Award. Anyway, he was off doing something else. So they got Hoyte van Hoytema, who did Her, and he also did Interstellar.
Oh.
And so this is his next movie.
Yeah, he's hot on the trail.
Yeah. He's
He'll be
getting up
nominated
there.
for Interstellar.
I
He probably will
think
win
so.
that.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it looked
yeah.
good. It was a beautiful film.
It did look good.
Yeah.
And then the stars of the movie, you've obviously got Daniel Craig and all of the people from
Judi Dench.
She's dead.
Excuse me?
Spoiler,
Oh, she's dead.
I guess. Skyfall spoiler.
Oh yeah.
But-
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think she's going to be in many more movies because she has macular degeneration.
Aw.
So she can't really see very well.
Oh,
anymore.
that sucks.
I know. And that's kind of why it's one of the reasons why they did what they did in Skyfall is because she
Yeah, you
just
freaked
can't-
me out when you said she's dead. I
No,
was like,
no,
when
no,
did
no,
Judi
the
Dench
char-
die?
the
Yeah, I got
character
you.
of
I
him
got
is
you.
dead. So Ralph Fiennes is coming back, and you've got everybody set up for what is now going to be considered a classic Bond movie. Everybody's in place. You've got Q, you've got Moneypenny, you've got M, you've got all of this in place. And now that a bunch of legal wranglings are over, they have the ability to use the name Spectre, which was used in a lot of those. I mean, it was used in I think it was used in Dr. No, but definitely in the second movie, which was From Russia with Love.
Right.
And so the movie is called Spectre.
Oh, cool.
And it looks like they're teasing it. They're teasing that there will possibly be a Blofeld, and Christoph Waltz is the villain. So he's probably
yeah.
Blofeld.
Yeah.
And you saw Sherlock, right? Have you seen Sherlock?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Moriarty
Yes.
from Sherlock
Yes.
is also in the movie as a possibly good, possibly bad type of person. And then the two women in the movie are, which Sam Mendes called the Bond women as opposed to Bond girls.
Yeah.
Are Monica Bellucci. who
Oh yeah. Of
is
course.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And looks amazing too. But I think she may be one of the oldest Bond women.
I was gonna say.
But I mean, she still looks great.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Léa Seydoux, who was the bad woman in Mission Impossible 4, the Ghost Protocol, the most recent Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
She was also in Inglourious Bastards.
Oh yeah. I know exactly who
she
you're
was
talking
one
about.
of the daughters
yeah.
in Inglourious Bastards at the very
absolutely.
beginning.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I mean, I'm excited about that and the whole thing, and it's actually going to come out in November. So it's just starting to shoot right now, and it's going to come out in November. So I'm excited, and I think the one good thing about that for me, if you kind of read behind the lines or between the lines, is that there's not going to be a lot of CG, which like Skyfall last year or 2 years ago or whatever, there wasn't a lot of CG there. I mean, there was some CG, but not a crazy amount. And so that I'm excited about, practical stunts, those types of things.
Well, they use CG to fill in the blanks and not create the world. The world was there. It was just like they did with Interstellar, the blended things, what Fincher does with CG.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, they did some face replacement. Like there was at the very beginning, the pre-credit sequence where he's riding the motorcycle on the rooftops.
Yeah.
Somebody really did that, just not Daniel Craig.
Right, of course.
So they had to do, digital replacement of his face, that kind of thing, which I don't have a problem with. But yeah, the whole thing I'm just really excited about because I even got to see Quantum of Solace as a preview screening because I worked at a TV station where we got free like screening tickets.
Oh yeah.
And so that was awesome. I got to see it like 2 days before everybody else. So I was stoked about that. But yeah. So what else have you been watching this past week?
Well, actually, since we've been talking every podcast about what we've been watching and I've been catching up on TV shows, I was like, I got to watch some movies, So I went to Redbox and I was like, everything is out. I mean, everything has come out. And I'm like, I haven't seen that. I'm like, but I also have Netflix coming in too. Mm-hmm. So I just, there are certain movies out there that I think I've seen them all the way through, but I can't really remember. Maybe because I saw them when I was younger. But we were talking about Peter Sellers for many different reasons, because Kubrick and so forth and so on. And I put Being There on my Netflix and just kind of forgotten about it. And I've gone through all of the TV shows that I have put on Netflix, and now the movies are starting to come back. So last week was Being There with Peter Sellers. Have you seen that film?
No, but I hear he's amazing.
Well, next week when we talk about Best Actor, we should bring this up, and this is a must-see. This and Sling Blade, both the two actors were nominated, and I'm especially interested in you seeing this film because of being such a Doctor Strangelove fan. When you see this performance, he's almost unrecognizable. You're going to sit there and look at him and go, I see Peter Sellers. I know that's Peter Sellers. There's not an inflection, a tone, an attitude, a disposition, nothing that will remind you of anything else that he's ever done.
Wow.
And he was nominated again because this is his second Oscar nomination. And that was Dustin Hoffman's year, I believe. Or no, I believe it was 1980. We can look it up next week when we talk about it.
Sure.
But it might have been Raging Bull, which, of course, nobody's going to beat De Niro.
Exactly.
But this performance is it's one of those steady-as-you-go performances, and it's even toned. There's not any kind of crazy over-the-top emotional moment or speech or long-winded thing, or that's an Oscar-winning speech type moment that we're always talking about. But it's solid. The movie is awesome. I'm interested to see what you think of it because it has this interesting ending to it, and it says a lot about politics. It says a lot about TV before the internet, before all that other stuff. It makes a big political statement, not about politics per se, but how people perceive how people act. What they do and say is more important than what they're saying.
Okay.
And what people are perceiving you're saying is way more important. Really quick synopsis. He's a gardener in a mansion in, I believe, New York or DC, and the owner dies. And he is just a caretaker who's always lived there. They give no explanation why. He was born there. He's lived his whole life there. He is probably in his middle 50s at this point. And the owner dies. So they're like, you have to leave. So he just dresses up in his little butler-looking outfit, his little derby hat and his ascot, I think, or tie, and has a cane, and he walks out. And of course, the city is completely different than anything he's probably ever seen because he never leaves the house. He runs into Shirley MacLaine. I won't tell you what happens. And he's a gardener, so they ask him what his name is, and his name is Chase. And the way he says it, he starts to cough, and it sounds like he's saying Chauncey. So they say, "Oh, your name is Chauncey," and he's like, "Yes."
Sure.
And what do you do, or what is your last name? And he goes, "Gardner." And so he becomes Chauncey Gardner. And it's all about our misconceptions or misunderstandings of what we think people are. Fascinating film. It's a must see if you're interested in especially Best Actor performances. And Peter Sellers.
And Peter Sellers, I love him. Okay, well, great. Well, let's start talking about our first movie this week. It's called Wish I Was There. And this movie has an interesting backstory. It had a hard time. Zach Braff had a hard time getting funding for this movie, and after seeing what the Veronica Mars movie did with Kickstarter, he decided to do that also, and it was more than funded. He had over $4 million, I think. So he was looking for $3 million, and he got over $4 million for it, and like 40-something thousand people donated at least something to the effort. So we're in a whole new realm of movie
love
making.
Everything about that concept. People who are really invested in film, who have $5, can donate that, and you have a part of that film.
That's right.
I mean, you watching a film and being an audience member, we've talked about this, is a very important aspect of film making. Without us, there would not be people making films because there would be nobody to watch them. I mean, it's a simple equation, but it's a fact.
Sure.
The fact that we invest time, I feel an ownership, not an ownership, but a connection to these films. So if I had donated money to these movies, I would feel even that much more connected. So I think it's a great idea.
Definitely. Yeah. And he's not beholden to a particular entity, a particular singular entity. It's not like he's got to go to whatever company is funding it, and they say, well, we don't like this line, or whatever.
Right. Some studio, you got to cut that ending.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, there's those two groups, those two, I guess they're financiers, really, the A24 Pictures and Annapurna Pictures, who were both, basically, I said basically again, was started by...
I'm going to keep account.
Started by rich people. I mean, they were started by rich people who really wanted to do this and
Wouldn't
wanted
you?
to make movies. Oh, I would, yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
wouldn't you?
They wanted to get movies made that otherwise would not be able to be made, and that's where you get an upcoming Foxcatcher, and you get all these. I mean, a lot of these movies we talk Zero Dark 30, and even though I don't like it very much, Killing Them Softly, and a lot of these more ambitious movies. Not ambitious as in like Guardians of the Galaxy ambitious,
Right.
but as far as tone and
Thoughts
and all of that,
provocative natures. Yeah.
they're willing to put her.
Yeah.
I mean, those
Yeah.
those movies probably wouldn't have been made. At least not. They would have been possibly made, but with a lot of concessions, as opposed to how they did get made. So yeah, I'm all about that. I'll give a quick synopsis. Aiden Bloom is a 35-year-old man who finds himself at a major crossroads, which forces him to examine his life, his career, and his family. That's from IMDb. I don't necessarily like that because it's not all about him.
No.
I think it's definitely it's a family-centered movie, and you really have his relationship with his father. You've got his relationship with his kids, his relationship with his wife. But you also have his wife's relationship with him and his wife's relationship with the kids.
And the work relationship she has.
The work relationships.
Yeah.
So it's not, and that's the other thing is like, this is not just centered around the Zach Braff character, because there are definitely scenes where he is not in the picture. I mean, he's not
Right.
in the movie. So that right there kind of blows that description.
Yeah,
out
that's
of the water a
the
little
weakest of the bunch, since I usually like those descriptions, but that's
Yeah.
that's not a very good one.
bit. No, not really, because it leaves out a lot of stuff. I mean, they're dealing with religion and death, and it's very ambitious as far as the subject matter of it. And I liked Garden State, and Garden State was a little bit more simplistic, I think, than this movie. But he was also a younger filmmaker and a younger writer. So, what did you think?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say simplistic for me for Garden State. I would say it had a focus that was pointed and directed.
Okay, yeah.
It was, and maybe it has something to do with, like, first albums are always unique and great, and then there's this sophomore album, and there's always this sophomore decline for albums. Maybe it's true for films too.
Mm-hmm.
But starting with the positive first, this man has a gift for casting movies.
Well, he's got a lot of friends.
Well, yeah, no. I'm not saying. I knew you were going to say something like that. What I mean is that has Kate Hudson ever been better? She's phenomenal in this. You didn't like her?
I did like her a
Yeah.
lot.
I
Yeah.
thought she was something special. I thought he found something in Natalie Portman I hadn't seen before in Garden State. I thought he found something different in Kate Hudson. Not different per se, just honest and real and touching. And she was. I wanted to hear more about her story, I'll be honest, in the long run. I think the kids are great. I love Mandy Patinkin. Anywhere he goes, I'm going. I think that Zach has a definite ear and eye for storytelling. I like the imaginative opening. I saw where it was going almost immediately, which was fine. This one's about a father and son relationship where he's an unsuccessful actor. The first one's about him and a father and son relationship and a very successful actor with the death of a mother in between for the first one. Same with this one. They say write what you know. So I can appreciate that. There's some really great lines and insight to the philosophy of life. I like the Jim Parsons cameo. I thought that was interesting. I love seeing actors who are fish out of water. How quick does the audience pick up when you see Zach Braff in the casting agency, and they're all like really large black guys, and they're all saying the same lines, and he's kind of just like, I'm sort of focused, but I'm not worried about the lines. And then Jim Parsons walks in for the same audition, and the casting director, or I guess the stage manager, if you will, goes, "Hey guys, did your agents not call you? This is for a larger."
We went a different way with the character.
Yeah, this is for a larger African American. And then Zach Braff tries to do his imitation of what he thinks the character should be, and in a non-stereotypical way. And
Yeah.
I love the stage manager. He's like, are you trying to be this person? Because you know you are not a black man, right? So
Yeah.
I love things like that. I love seeing him as a father. I love the kids who are as smart as their parents. The death of the father or the dying of the father situation, which you find out early on in the film.
Oh, yeah.
I love the brother. Who's the brother, by the way? What's his name?
The Josh Gad,
Yeah, loved him.
Book of Mormon.
Yeah, he's very interesting. There's something about him, and I love non-traditional things in film. We've mentioned this before. We've talked about this before. Anybody who is not physically in shape and chiseled features and Brad Pitt eyeballs and blonde hair and beautiful usually doesn't get much work in Hollywood. So to actually see people who look like people walking around on the streets, it's nice to see. Whoever the young lady is who played the daughter, she's something special.
You haven't seen Fargo. She's great in Fargo, the
Yeah,
show.
Okay, I have seen commercials,
Okay.
and I was wondering where I recognized her from. But
That's-
good for her that she's working. She's going to
Yeah.
be something huge and special at someday. That said, I will say this: I think that he might have gotten a little ahead of himself when it came to certain ideas for the film. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. The father drives the kids to the school. It's a Jewish school. What's the name of it?
Shul? No. That's a temple. Yeshiva.
Yes, thank you. I would not have thought of that. I could hear it in my head, but I couldn't say it out loud. And he's waiting in line, and of course, there's a long line to get out of the dropping off the kids. And he's avoiding the rabbis for a certain reason, a financial reason. And he sees one of the rabbis, and he's like, "Oh no, here he comes, here he comes." But then there's a long line for him to get out, and he gets impatient, and he opens his cigarette
Ashtray.
Yes, thank you. First of all, who has ashtrays in their cars anymore? That was kind of weird, wasn't
Yeah.
it? And there are 4 or 5 small joints in there, or roaches, half-smoked joints.
I didn't know if they were cigarette butts. Or
No, they were
Okay,
joints. They were
all right.
totally joints. The thing that got me was, first of all, who would light one of those up in a line for a school
Yes.
when he's trying to avoid the rabbi? And with his kids being as smart as they are, they've never looked in there. They didn't see that there were 4 or 5 burned joints. It was one of those illogical things that I think he thought when he was doing it, it would have been funny.
It's clever.
But what's the
Yeah.
purpose? What was the purpose?
Yeah, and then similarly, I'm just gonna jump on that, and I saw this in the trailer too. But there's a scene where he's waiting in the waiting room with his dad, and he looks over and he sees that there's a pamphlet holder that says,
Yeah.
this pamphlet could save your life," and it's empty.
I love that though.
To me,
I thought was
too-
okay. I got why he put that in there. What I'm saying, it's logical on some kind of level. I see why you say what you're saying, but to me that at least makes sense. There would be something like that.
That's
It's
true.
ironic. He's
It is.
making a statement about that. Here, save yourself with this pamphlet. I get it. Call 911. Whatever the pamphlet says, I get it. But what father do you know would have done what he did in that line, especially with those smart kids? I mean, maybe he would have tried to roll a joint and, gotten the stuff all over his lap while the rabbi was trying to talk to him and he could cover it up. But who would have done that? Like, I didn't understand what was the purpose of that. Was he so frustrated that he felt like he had to relieve tension by smoking a little joint? I didn't get it.
I think maybe at the time, the only thing I can think of is at the time, maybe he was trying to impress upon the viewer that this person, even though he's 35 years old and has 2 kids that are going to school, is not grown up. Can't just
We got
wait.
it in the first 5 minutes when he allows the kid to say a cuss word.
Yeah.
That was great. But that also teaches you that the children are smart. They're kind of smarter than he is. They're on top of him when they have a cuss jar, a swear jar, and he says the F word all the time. So, the thing is filled up. That is significant to something later on in the movie. I liked all that. But there were small minor things that I thought, why? Oh, and the small but yet major for me. Okay, we've seen the starving actor who is an artist who wants to be the actor and gives up everything in his life to be that. Okay, now this is a father who is being supported by his wife, Kate Hudson, who has like a serious 9-to-5 office job.
Oh, I wrote this down. The way that was shot, it's very green. Usually, so in TV, if you're outside and you shoot something, you use a video camera and you shoot something, you have to do what's called like white balancing.
Yeah.
And then if you walk inside, the colors are going to be all screwed up because you go from daylight to a different color temperature. So what he did is he took advantage of that situation and he white balanced to something that made to a color that made the inside of that office look green and like just like moldy or dank, and I mean it just looked very just
You didn't want to be there.
It's horrible. And there was like this droning, this audible droning in the background.
I liked all that.
That was great. I love that.
My point was though that it just didn't add up for me that somebody would be a father of two who allowed his wife to support him, which I don't have a problem with that. I have no problem with stay-home dads. I think it's a great idea. They're making commercials with stay-home dads now. I think it's a great idea. Why not? I mean, fathers are as important as mothers. Mothers might be making more money than they. So be it. No judgment there. But why didn't he deliver pizzas at night? Why didn't he have a part-time job? Why didn't he work a convenience store overnight and was tired for this audition? He never added anything financially. And it's a big contention with him and his father. I get that. He set that up, but it just doesn't add up for me.
And why would Kate Hudson stay with him?
Well, no, I had no problem with that. And she has that great scene where she said, when did your dream become where I'm supposed to suffer for it?
Yeah.
You know, I get that. That was okay. But what the scene should have been for me, from my point of view, it would have been, okay, you've been doing this for a really long time, and so far it's not panned out. So how much longer are you going to be working a convenience store job at night where you don't see your kids that often? You go to auditions all day. You don't see me. I'm making most of the money. When are you going to give this up? And her not believe in his dream that way. When he says to her, I thought you believed in my dream. I'm like, dude, your oldest daughter's what, like 12? How long have you not had a job? Go deliver pizzas. Make some form of money. So I just thought it was just a tad bit illogical on some levels. I mean, I did start with the positive and then immediately went into things I didn't like about that. I think it's worth seeing, but
I think the acting is good though.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
And I think the kids, both kids. Have you seen Looper?
yeah.
Okay, that's the boy, her Emily Blunt's son.
Oh, okay.
Is
Yeah,
his son
yeah.
in this movie, and he was great. And then I also just looked up Joey King is the daughter's name, the actress who plays the daughter. She was also the daughter in Crazy Stupid Love, so I think we saw her in that.
Oh, she's the sister, the little
sister.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
she has a nickname in that. Yeah.
I can't remember her name.
I like her.
Yeah, and then the boy, the son is Pierre Gagnon.
Okay.
Gagnon.
That's an important
Could just
name
be
for such a young kid.
Gagnon too.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm guessing it's like Gagnon. And yeah, he was in Looper, and I think that's really the only other. I knew I had recognized both of them though, so I had to look it up, and I was like, yes, that's
Okay,
it.
so back to the point of the film. Did all those things work for you?
Well, I mean.
Did you watch it with Steph?
I did watch it with Steph, and the biggest problem I had, and I even said it during the movie with Steph, is when they were talking about having to take their kids out of private school and either homeschool them or put them in public school, and they were having this discussion, this big, major family life discussion in front of the kids.
That made
which-
sense to me.
No.
Because they talked about everything in front of the kids anyway.
But to me, that I just felt like that was irresponsible, because you're talking about completely ripping these kids, and no wonder his daughter kind of freaks out a little bit, because they're shifting her life, and she's in an awkward stage of growth.
And
anyway.
she really likes going to the school.
She does. She
Yeah.
loves it. She loves it. And so that, to me, I would think there would have been a more tactful way of doing that. But that's probably, like you said, how those kids have become so world conscious, or you know, I don't know what the word is.
Well, they're not goo
you know,
goo and gaga in them. They're not baby talking to
No.
them. They've been
They're
talking to them in
adult.
normal conversations since they were babies. You can tell. The reason why I see what you're saying, because I thought about that too. The reason why it worked for me was because it was the opposite of what they normally do in films. Normally, the two parents are in the kitchen trying to have the conversation
And the
and
kids are
trying not to be
listening.
overheard by the kids. And they're trying to talk, oh no, hon, we're talking about the ice cream in the refrigerator, melting, or whatever the conversation they pretend intended is. So it was kind of refreshing to see something different. But I get what you're saying. There were little illogical things that, as a whole, didn't make the film work completely for me.
Mm-hmm. There were scenes, though, the way the scenes were shot and the emotional. There's a kind of a Comic-Con thing side deal with his brother, and you know, I mean, he uses tropes like consistently, more like music video type tropes where you're doing slow motion or you know, particular scenes, and you can kind of put those together in a building block type manner and have a movie. And if the backbone of the movie isn't solid, like you were kind of pointing out a few things, then it doesn't fit together as well. But I think the scenes themselves, same thing with Garden State. Certain scenes were great. There was a scene in Garden State where it was a time lapse and all these people are having a party around him. He sat
love
there.
that.
Yeah, and then obviously the scene where he's wearing the same shirt as
Yes.
he's in the bathroom, and that right there is a statement. It's a visual statement about that conveys not only visual information but an emotion.
Right.
And those things are exciting to me. But then, like you said, if it doesn't all fit together coherently, then you just have a highlight reel.
Well, once again, I found all the stuff about the brother. I'm thinking more about him, Kate Hudson, and the kids in the long run after the film's over with than I am about anything that the main character went through.
Yeah.
You know, when you find out the father is sick, you know inevitably what is going to happen. Mm-hmm. You know, they're just things that just didn't, like the pool in the backyard. Mm-hmm. If he was a creative person, for me, he probably would have cleaned it up and used it for something creative. It would have been his I don't know, his stage, his acting stage. That's where he rehearsed his plays or his lines, or he did plays in the backyard. But yet, again, it's just a pool with some muddy water in it that his father is using to hold against him. Mm-hmm. And then you have the father relationship that is bad, obviously in the beginning of the kid's life, meaning the two brothers, Zach Braff and his brother, mm-hmm. because the brother says, just because, you know, like you're dying doesn't mean that your father wasn't an a-hole when you were growing up. That doesn't all get washed away. Mm-hmm. I was more interested in all those things than the things that he was presenting. So in a way, he did his job. He posed a lot of questions and made me think about a lot of things. But there was something about the way Garden State flowed, and I'm not comparing the two. I'm mm-hmm. saying that there was a tone and an attitude about the way the storytelling was flowing that made you not think. It just made you ride the wave of the story he was telling.
Okay.
And what he did in this, he actually went against his instinct and pulled back on the music, which is such a standout in Garden State. Mm-hmm. And I think he did that on purpose because he didn't want to be the director who was cool enough to play the new Whoever song at the
Although Coldplay did write a song called Wish I Was Here for this movie, I think.
Where is it at in the film?
I don't know. I was reading through the soundtrack thing.
Well, good for them, but
yeah, I mean,
it's not used enough. It's not used prominently enough to make me remember it.
And
so, you know, overall, I think it's worth watching. But I was hoping for more. Mm-hmm. If I made this movie, I would be like, yeah, I think it's great. I wouldn't be embarrassed by it. I see what he was going for, but I think in like 10 years, he's going to look back and go, why exactly did I do that like that? You know, mm-hmm. like that didn't fit exactly. I don't know. I don't know if I'm articulating that correctly, but for me, it just didn't overall work.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was just an okay movie, and that's where. But like I said, there were those scenes that I enjoyed, similar to Garden State.
Well, there's a scene with Zach Braff and Kate Hudson on the beach, which is phenomenal. She's phenomenal in that. The scene with her and her coworker, she's phenomenal in that. The brother scene at the end with Mandy Patinkin in the hospital, he's fantastic in that. When Kate Hudson sees the daughter do what she does to the hair, her hair, she's like, I shouldn't be upset about this, right? I shouldn't be upset about this. I felt so bad for her because she was flipping out, but she wanted to be this cool mom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
she's
there was
like thinking in a higher plane, trying to at least.
Yeah, I guess if you have a scale and you're putting the positive versus the negative on one side of the scale and one negative on the other, you know, the positive is going to weigh heavier for me on this one than the negative. But overall, for me, I wish it had balanced a little bit more.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, so that was Wish I Was Here. and it was written by Zach Braff and his brother.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't
Yeah.
know his brother, but did his brother write Garden State with him?
No, and I looked up his brother. His brother's been like a set decorator for a long time.
Good for them.
Yeah, so it's kind of neat that he's that they work together, but
I will say this. I'm surprised that he had a hard time finding money for this film, because I think Garden State was really well received, if I remember correctly, and it was what they call a sleeper hit, if you
Yeah.
will. I think it's when it finally gets into the consciousness of the world, but on a level where only like friends know about it, and they're like, "Have you seen this film Garden State?" It's not
Yeah.
in the lexicon
Cult
of the
movie
yeah,
kinda.
if you will, for lack of a better term. But I'm surprised that if I had money, I would have given it to him for his second film instantaneously.
oh yeah, and it obviously worked. So this is not the last crowdfunded movie.
And I think when somebody does give him more money for his next film, whatever it may be, maybe fighting for the money takes some kind of effort that pulls away from the creative process. I don't know. But I think whatever his next 3 or 4 are going to be, he's something to watch out for.
Definitely. All right, now we're going to talk about The One I Love. Just came out this year, and it was one of those kind of interesting rollouts where it was available. I believe it was available on iTunes before it came out in theaters, and it only came out in a certain number of theaters. I don't even think it was here in Raleigh at all.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
You know what? It may have been at Raleigh Grant, but anyway. So I'll just give a quick synopsis. Struggling with a marriage on the brink of falling apart, a couple escapes for a weekend in pursuit of their better selves, only to discover an unusual dilemma that awaits them.
See, that's a better description.
Oh, it's great.
That's a good description of
And
that.
this trailer, which we've already talked about, I'm not going to say too much about it, but it's one of the best trailers this year, and it is a great trailer. Something about that trailer reminds me of Doctor Strangelove. It reminds me of like these movies where you don't know what's happening,
Yeah,
but
you've got to
things are
see it
happening.
because you've got to figure out the questions.
Yeah.
Because they're
what's
posing a
that
lot
guy
of
doing?
answer. but
Who's this guy?
Yeah.
And in
definitely.
this one, it wasn't like characters necessarily like Doctor Strangelove was, but in this one, it was like something's happening.
Right.
And it's not like, spaceships flying down and, laser beams and stuff. It's not that. It's something's happening that could be realistically happening, but is some kind of weird metaphysical something going on. And I needed to figure it out. I wanted to see what they were talking about. And so I
And
was
don't
really
you think
excited.
when you saw the film, it was completely satisfying, and it where it went was
yeah.
even better than
It
you
was
were
better.
even expecting on any
was
level?
better.
Yeah, it was.
It was better.
It really was.
And the other thing is I've learned to trust the Duplass brothers.
No doubt about it,
You
dude.
can't go wrong.
Not at all.
You can't. Drinking Buddies and the other movies they're in. I love The League too, which is, he's just an actor in that,
Yeah.
but it's a show and
Yeah.
it's great. I will see pretty much anything he's in.
Well, he has a sensibility and a disposition that's just a little off kilter. And once again, he's an attractive guy, but not a movie star, what you think of as a stereotypical movie star. I
Yeah.
like seeing people who walk down the street who you might look at and be like, oh, he's attractive, she's attractive, but you don't think movie star. You don't think, leading man, but yet he's the leading man. And so
Yeah.
is she. She fits into that category too.
Yeah, but
and
she's
how
beautiful.
beautiful. She really is
And
beautiful.
especially when you see her with this type of hair as opposed
Yes.
to Mad Men.
Yeah.
it's-
She looked really good in this film.
Yeah, she did. She really did.
You know what she is? She's pretty.
She's that naturalistic,
Yeah,
beautiful.
she's pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, and she doesn't. She is one of those people who doesn't need any makeup, and this it makes me wonder how much this movie cost to make, and they probably won't release that. But you think about it, and it's the perfect low budget movie, like a lot of the Duplass brothers movies, where you're trapped in a house for whatever reason, or the whole thing is set in a house, and you just explore, And I don't think this movie was like most of those, like what they consider, I guess, mumblecore or those types of.
What's mumblecore?
So you get Joe Swanberg, the Duplass brothers. There's been some. It was kind of a indie movement of these movies that are hyper low budget, like sub $500,000, and even with digital, you can shoot a movie with $50,000 all said and done. But but these movies where you kind of go in, you have a structure, you have a skeleton of a script, and you have you have like a point A, point B, and point C for each scene.
Yeah.
But there's no dialogue written.
So why is it mumble? Is in like mumble?
Mumblecore was I guess it was, I don't know the specific etymology, but I think that it was kind of like middle class or middle upper class ennui, like, oh, how horrible is our life?
Yeah.
That we only have one car and we, are going to
We
an
have
Ivy
to
League
eat out
school
2 times a week instead of 4. Yeah. Right. I gotcha.
That kind of a thing.
Okay.
So I think that's where it kind of started, but it's evolved definitely into things like this, which the Duplass brothers did not write and did not direct. So I don't know the story behind this movie, but the director and the writer must have come to them, or they saw the script somehow, and boom, this thing is made. So,
well, this is going
I
to
don't even want
now
to start
be.
talking about this movie.
I know, right? This is now going to be the example. Memento has always been the example of the one good idea thought. In my mind, all it takes is an idea for a movie to unfold. Yes, you have to write it. Yes, the story has to be told. Yes, the characters have to be developed. But it all starts with one good idea. The fact that a guy for Memento is a private investigator or was a private investigator, and he's trying to figure out what happened to him, but he has short-term memory loss. Right there, the script kind of writes itself.
Sure.
I'm not taking anything away from writers. I'm saying whoever came up with that idea is genius. Whoever came up with this idea, it's been right there on the tip of our consciousness since we've been alive, and nobody's done anything. And here it is.
Yep.
Because what a great idea that you can go somewhere and find the best part of your significant other's self
and it's a realization
interact
of that.
with them. So basically, I mean, there's really no way to talk about it without spoilers.
Yeah. Before we start getting into it proper, I would say you brought up something that I just wanted to reiterate, because I thought about this earlier today, is that it's an original idea, and there is a dearth of original ideas. Is that the way to say that? Dearth?
Sounds right to
I
me.
think there's not a lot of them. A dearth.
Oh, you're saying like a lack of.
A lack of. Whatever that word is, that's what I wanted to use, but I'm going to say there's a lack of
Sure.
original ideas.
I agree with you 100%.
I went to boxofficemojo.com, pulled the top 20 movies from this year, and as far as like earning. You've got Guardians of the Galaxy, Hunger Games, Captain America, the Lego Movie, which I haven't seen yet, but is an original premise, probably, I'm guessing, but is still based on a property.
Sure.
So people are going to go because they have Legos. Transformers 4, whatever it is. Maleficent, X-Men. So Maleficent's obviously based on the Sleeping Beauty, I think. Sleeping Beauty, right?
Sleeping Beauty.
X-Men, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Godzilla, 22 Jump Street, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Big Hero 6. That's the Disney animated movie that just came out a couple weeks ago. That's the first one that's not based on a prior, I mean, it's being made by Disney, so people are going to take their kids to it anyway. How to Train Your Dragon 2, Gone Girl, based on a best-selling novel. Interstellar. We're down to 16, and we've only got one movie, and I'm sure Interstellar will go up on the list, but Divergent, based on a book. Neighbors is a comedy. Ride Along is a comedy. And Rio 2 is a sequel.
So your point is that there's a lack of an originality when it comes to an idea. But that said, I agree with you, and obviously that's a fact. But when something like this comes along, when something like The One I Love comes along, it makes it that much more special that you go, wow. Because it's
But I wish it could be on that list.
Yeah, but
and
you know what? It
can't.
is. It's on our list.
I
So
know.
it's gotten to somebody. It's an idea that makes perfect sense. It's a relationship film that has been there all along, because you always think about what the person they say that women like to change men when they get into relationships and that it never works. This is sort of based on that on some kind of level. It's always been there. How has it never been told as a story? So when I figured out what was going on, it's so cleverly done too. Because at the first couple times they make the switch, they go to a therapist. They're a couple. They are not getting along. He apparently has cheated on her or done something. I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess you find that out in the first conversation. Ted Danson is the therapist. He says, I know this place. It's helped a lot of couples. They go, okay, what do we got to lose? It's this vacation home back in the woods somewhere. It's really undefined where it's at. And there's a guest house. And when you go into the guest house alone, not with your significant other, your significant other is already in the guest house, but it's a different version.
It's a heightened version or a version that you would dream of.
Your real husband is actually sleeping on the couch in the real house, and you, the wife, goes into the guest house, and there's another version of your husband in the guest house. At first, they get confused. They're not sure what's going on.
Well, because it's not explained to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's not explained to the audience either, because you don't know when she first interacts with him that
that's true. Yeah, you don't.
He's not a real person.
But he's acting differently.
He is acting different, but but until that's pointed out, I don't think anybody.
Right. I didn't
notice his hair was messy and he wasn't wearing glasses. Anyway, then it dawned on me. I was like, "Oh, this is such a great idea because it's somebody's significant other, but it's the best part of their significant other. It's in their mind's eye, all these great things." And for example, when she has the conversation with him, the other significant, it's kind of hard to talk about. The doppelganger. There's a good way to put it. The mysterious guest house husband, when he apologizes for cheating on her, it's almost exactly everything she wants him to say to her. Put exactly how she needs to hear it. Exactly. How many times in relationships have you gone, if they just said it this way, if they just did this, or if I just said it this way, if I didn't do this, it's a great idea. It's just well done. It's extremely well acted. It's extremely well put together. It's clever. It's witty. It's smart. It never talks down to you. It's keeps you interested because you're like, where is this going? And then when it takes its little left curves or its little right curves, and then the big kind of thing at the end where you realize, oh, wait, this is something more than what we were expecting it to be. Yeah. Because they do all this discovery in the movie. Like, what is this?
And the movie kind of goes through different phases. It's a definite, relationship movie. And then it kind of turns into a whodunit, or I don't know what you would call it, an investigative movie.
Well, it's a kind of, let's see what we can get away with without the other person knowing about it.
But then also you're trying to, the male character is trying to figure out what are the machinations behind this? How does this work? He wants to take it apart, and she wants to live in it.
Right, because she starts to fall for the doppelganger husband, and because he is being the husband that she wishes that she had.
But she also sees the husband that she's lived with for I don't know how long, 10 years or whatever, that she's been with, and he looks the same and he feels the same and his voice sounds the same, but emotionally he's connecting with her better and he's doing the things that she wants to do, and he's he does sit-ups, things like that.
Yeah, because he's
bettering. He wants to better himself for her.
Right,
and
but that's exactly what she wants in her real husband.
So why would she? Yeah, why would she ever want to go back to this other guy who has no intention of?
Because that's the real guy that she fell in love with, and that's his point.
And she can't make that.
Well,
connection.
He also kind of makes it very easy because he makes a huge mistake. The real husband makes a huge mistake. He pretends to be the fake husband and sleeps with her. So he's essentially cheated on her
with himself.
Brilliant. Who thought of that? That's brilliant. Come on now. Think about that for a split second. It's almost inarticulate how to explain it in words to people who haven't seen it. Because people, if you just listen to what we just talked about, you've been like, what?
That last line doesn't make any sense to somebody who hasn't seen it, but it does make sense when you're at that point in the movie. So, and I would say you have to see it.
Have to. It's going to be up in my top 5 list of movies for this year.
Yeah.
And this year's been hard to find the top 10 list. It's not come. It's been very slow and hard. It has not come fast and easy this year.
Yeah.
So far, like Birdman, which just got all the SAG nominations, by the way, all of them.
Cool.
Yep, they all
just came
did.
out?
Yeah, they just came out today or yesterday, I think. Yeah,
Awesome.
all of them were nominated as well. They should have been.
Yeah.
And I think it's going all the way down the line. Who knows? But I think it's going all the way down. I think it's going to be a real front runner for the Best Picture.
So that's SAG. What about J.K. Simmons for Whiplash?
Yep.
Okay, good.
He's nominated. He's going to be the front runner all the way down. There's really got to be somebody who's going to come in and really show at the last minute. It's probably not going to happen, and I'm hoping it isn't going to happen. But I haven't seen that performance yet.
I just want people to see that movie. And
Absolutely,
that's the easiest way for people.
Well,
to
it's
see the
on
movie.
everybody's top 10 list of best movies of the year. A lot of the
great.
films that we have not enjoyed as much this year, Transformers being one of them, have been on the worst film list of this
okay.
year. So we're kind of par for the course with people. This one is The Kings of Summer
Okay, of this year.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Moonrise Kingdom, even though people knew that film.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie, but a lot of people didn't see that film. This one is not a lot of people know about. The one I
You're
love.
right, yeah.
Not a lot of people do. But it's when I started mentioning The Kings of Summer to friends of mine, they were like, "Oh, I never heard of that." And I was like, "Watch that and The Way, Way Back. Get ready for Steve Carell because he's taking off in a whole nother direction." This is before I even knew about Foxcatcher.
Yep.
You know, they were all nominated too, with the exception of Channing Tatum.
Okay.
A little disappointing, and nobody from Fury. A little disappointing,
But
but
whoa! Why are you disappointed? You haven't seen the movie yet.
no. But
Okay.
there's something about it.
Okay.
That's okay.
About the trailer, right? Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, that's fine.
No, I'm a little disappointed that he wasn't nominated.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, although I haven't seen it, you're right.
Yeah.
There's some instinct that I have.
Okay.
Anyway, it sounds.
Well, that will be interesting once we see Foxcatcher to talk about it and see if it reconciles.
Absolutely. And normally I never take it back, but
Uh,
this might be
yeah.
the first time. Who knows? Anyway, too big for my own britches on that one. I realize it. I love movies, man. I love
Yeah.
the instinct I have about people who are going to take the next step, and he's taking the next step. Anyway, back to this film. It's in my top 5 of this year. It's when people go, "What did you see this year?" Because people ask me all the time, what was your favorite movies this year? It's immediately I'm gonna say Birdman, Fury, and The One I Love. And people are gonna know the first two, kind of.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna have a clue what this one is. And that's the fun of loving movies like we do, because
Yeah.
we get to say, this you should check out.
Yeah.
You really should.
We do the work of digging deeper so that we can
We watch it.
hold it up to people and
Yeah.
say, "Here,
Yeah.
watch this."
And how great are both of these two actors in moment-to-moment believability, their conversation. If you overheard that, like if somebody was playing speakers in a house and it sounded like two people in a real house, not like coming from a movie or a TV set or whatever, you would believe that was two people having a conversation,
Yeah.
a couple having a conversation, completely believable 100% of the time. Not a false moment between them. Not one. And it's two actors the whole entire time.
Yep.
And they have to play two other characters too. And they have to make it that much different. Did you notice the costumes difference?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit. And then they try to do it with the hair on both
Yeah.
him and her.
Yeah, yeah.
to-
She's a little bit prettier in the mysterious world, and they're always wearing white and beige and light summer clothes, and the other
Yep.
ones are always wearing dark green and plaids and stuff like that.
That's
yeah,
true.
phenomenal.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. All right. Well, I would say if you haven't seen it, you need to go see it. Now, what I want to do now is talk about the very end.
Okay.
Okay, so spoilers, big time spoilers for
Yep.
this movie after now. Okay, so you seem like more of a person who could have known exactly what was going to happen at the end. Once they all four are sitting down in the main house.
Which I loved.
That was
when
I
they
didn't-
walked
you know
in.
what?
I loved it.
When I saw the people on the couch, I thought it was different people
No, well,
initially.
Yeah,
I
because
was
they're
like,
kind of
well,
sitting differently.
yeah.
There's subtle things about their performances
Yeah.
that I don't think that people really grasp how hard that's to do.
Yeah, and then once they all kind of sat, looking at each other, I was like, okay, now I understand. But I thought it was the next people that were supposed to be there.
No, see, I
And
didn't.
then I
His
was like,
look
oh, no.
is fantastic when he's like, wait, I'm looking at myself. What is
Yeah.
going on?
He's like,
What?
this is real.
Yeah, this is okay. How did you get from the guest house to this? One thing we haven't mentioned is, we have mentioned that they can't go in together.
Yeah.
Except for he finds a flaw in that a little bit later on.
He jumps in.
He finds a loophole in that, which I thought was great too. Because I thought, oh, wait, nope, I bought it. And also, the guest house people can't leave
Yeah.
until this part of the movie.
Yeah.
And the
They
two...
get a certain amount far along in
Yeah.
this process
Yes.
of transitioning or whatever they
Right.
call it.
No, I did not see that coming, and I have some issues with some of the ending.
Okay.
But go ahead. What were you going to say about the ending?
I was just gonna say, after that point, so there's main parts. There's the part where they're all sitting together in the house, and then there's the part where where the doppelganger wife drops her facade in the kitchen, and that part I was like, this is not what I'm thinking. This is not a supernatural something. There's something else going on here. It's not a version of her. It's an alien or something, which I would have been okay with. I would have been okay with Alien. Would you have been okay with Aliens?
No, I actually thought it was a figment of their imagination, and it only manifested it in people who needed to see themselves in a different light. So,
Okay.
no, I wouldn't have liked it if it was aliens.
Okay.
And I'm not exactly sure what they were in the long run, because...
Well, it had to be some sort of supernatural something.
It
'Cause
had
they're
to be.
changing their body and their voice. So
right, what was that all about? That was
okay,
a bit,
so that part is probably the part that I have the biggest issue with.
Yeah, me too.
Is that when he looks around the grounds at the very beginning of the movie, he goes into this room which has a recording studio in it,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
I said basically again.
Oh,
Put
that's
it down.
third.
Has the recording studio in there, and he's just like, crazy. All right, I'm gonna go somewhere else. And then
Wait, let me
nothing
just
the rest of
right.
the,
Let me
the
just say
movie.
something about that. Once again, it's one of those things that you should know is significant
You knew it
as a
was
movie.
coming back.
No, I didn't. That's
Oh,
what was
oh, you
amazing.
forgot about it?
Yeah, I completely forgot about it.
Okay.
It didn't even strike me as. I just thought they were looking around the grounds of the vacation home, and there was a studio. The person who owned the home was a
Yeah,
musician or
I thought
something.
it was like a transporter room or something. I was totally in the.
I was like, wow. And then when it comes back, I was like, oh, it did it. The smart
did it
movie
to me
did-
again.
One more time.
those
Yeah.
meddling kids.
I loved it.
So that part was a little bit of a.
So Ted Danson is the therapist
Yeah.
in the beginning, and he apparently has set up some form of metaphysical world. He has involved himself in this world,
Yes.
and he has people who stay there. In the beginning of the film, which I also didn't think was going to come back, there's sort of a guest book, but it's a modern day guest book. It's a
Yeah.
photo album of real pictures that they can scroll through, like on a iPad, right. And he scrolls through all the pictures at the end, and he finds a couple that looks just like him and her. And then he hears the recording of Ted Danson trying to get this couple to sound like them. Mm-hmm. I thought it was a weird thing that they tacked on to that. I thought it would have been just better that this was some kind of... go ahead.
I liked it.
Okay.
Yeah, you keep going.
I thought it was like you seen. I know this is a strange leap. The Animatrix.
Yeah.
Okay. In the one Animatrix where the Matrix is not fully. The program's not working correctly. They can like jump off of middle of a building and land in mid space because the matrix is not correct.
Uh-huh.
You remember that part
They
of
got
it?
glitches,
Yeah,
yeah,
they got
okay.
glitches in the matrix. I thought that this was like a black hole in the middle of our world or
Okay.
a rip in our universe that allowed you to see who you wanted to see as your significant other.
Okay.
I thought it should have gone down that road, but it was interesting because that would have never led you down the road of them getting to choose
to the very end.
Yeah,
which
because
is the point of the whole movie.
yeah, because what you find out is that the couple that's in the guest house, the closer that the two outside who are in the main house who originally come get to breaking up, the two in the guest house become
The doppelgangers,
the
yeah.
doppelgangers can start to become more real, and they can
And
leave
leave.
the guest house, and they want to leave the guest house.
Well, yeah, they're prisoners.
But why are they prisoners?
because
Who put them there?
it's a cycle. I don't know how it started, but it's a cycle. The only way to leave is to you start off as a couple, and you go to this place, you break up, you become the doppelgangers. In getting this other couple to break up, you possibly fall in love again or get to where you're there's teamwork involved in that, because you have to do the male has to do a certain thing, the female has to do a certain thing to get the next couple to break up, to allow you to leave with your significant other. Now you're in a different body. Kind of sucks for you, but you're in a different body. And so you head out in this new body.
So how did they end up looking like them? Was the pictures that you saw a progression of all the people who had stayed there and they just became a different looking person the next time?
Yeah. You are changing into, the doppelgangers in this movie looked different when they showed up, right? They were the previous couple to show up.
Yeah.
So they looked different when they showed up. They broke up because the doppelgangers that were there before them got them to break up. And then they figured out, Ted Danson came by and was like, hey, here's the deal. This is how it works. You guys are stuck here. If you want to get out, you got to learn, you got to talk like these people. You got to know. He already had a session with them, so he knew where their buttons were. He knew, Ted Danson knew what each of them wanted.
It's a test for your actual relationship, that if your relationship can get stronger because of this situation, then you get to leave as yourself and your real relationship. If not, you get stuck in the guest house and the fake you gets... I thought it was a little too clever for its own good.
Okay.
I think they should have simplified it a little bit. So tell me what you liked about it, so maybe I'll understand it a little bit better.
I liked it because you've got a separate... So you've already broken up as a couple, but now you're stuck together.
Right.
So you have a choice. Either you stay there forever or there's something that made them get married. There's something that made them stay together for however long they were together.
Are you talking about
It doesn't matter what couple it is.
Fair enough.
When you think about it. So whatever couple it is, if he's going to send them there, they're having problems. And it's that whole, whatever, you gets worse before it gets better, or however you want to describe it. But that kind of a thing where now it has to get better for them because they have to break up this other marriage so that they can get out. It's saying that, our life and our relationship is more important than these other people's, which is a horrible thing to say or to have to do, but it would make their relationship stronger, and that would allow them to get out. That would allow them to leave. So as a conceit, it's interesting. I've never seen it before, and it affords them to have the end of the movie where the doppelganger goes out, tries to run away, and he dies, I guess. Does he die?
I don't know. Maybe he's... I don't know. It's one of those ones that's so fascinating that just even talking about it, I'm a little bit more confused, but I understand it a little bit better, so I need to see it again. I don't know if he dies, because I don't know.
But then the switch at the end, did you see that? Because I tried not to
because
think about
I realized when he's looking at her and he has to decide which one is his wife, and the one is looking kind of mean and down.
She looks down.
Yeah, I knew that was her. I knew that was
his wife.
Yeah, I did.
And the other one smiled. So
yeah,
that kind of felt weird to me.
They were acting like each other. They were trying to act like each other. The doppelganger was trying to act like his real wife, and his real wife, they had planned that before they came out of the thing. Because remember, the doppelganger says to her, hey, I get this. You're really in love with my husband, doppelganger, and how many times can you say that in a show? And I really want out, and I really like your husband. You want to stay. So they planned that. They planned to act like each other.
Okay.
So when he looks at her, the doppelganger's pretending to be his real wife, and his real wife is pretending to be the doppelganger by taking on very...
So the real husband doesn't know that the doppelganger wife and
not
the real
the very
wife
ending.
have talked?
No.
See, I didn't get that part.
Not to the very ending. Not till she
no,
says...
the bacon. I know the bacon, but...
Yeah, why would he know that? Why would the ending be such a shock then?
No. What I thought that it was just a survival instinct on the doppelganger wife's part. Like, I got to get out of here.
Oh, no. She takes advantage of the fact that the real wife wants to be in love with the
this
fake
other
husband.
guy.
Yeah. And that I think is the most impressive performance about her performance. Elizabeth Moss?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want to make sure I got that. because she strikes that whole very stoic, stern attitude towards the real wife, and she's like, "Let me tell you something," and she shuts it down, and she's very poignant and serious and almost angry to a point. There's an intensity to that character that has not been there up until that point.
Yeah.
And she pretty much says, "Here's the deal. I know you're in love with the fake husband, and I want out. So here's what we're going to do."
Okay.
They planned that. You could
I'll have
tell
to
by
watch it again.
that look and that little bit of conversation that's what's going to happen. So yeah, I did foresee that coming. I didn't foresee the fake husband running into the blank wall and hitting. Yeah, that was
happen somehow. I mean,
Well,
something's got to happen to.
I think what should have happened, well, for me, I love how I'm always like rewriting things like I'm smarter than the people who actually make these movies. I know I'm not. Everybody listening. I know I'm not. I'm just saying. For me, what would have been neat was if he had run to that gate and he had disappeared and shown back up in the guest house.
Okay.
And then run back out to the gate and disappeared and shown back up into the guest
And
house.
just frustrating.
Yeah, and it's just an ongoing pattern because he had to have the other guy choose to want to stay. Manipulated or not,
Yeah.
the real guy had to choose to stay.
I wasn't sure if it was a package deal or not.
That's
you know what
why
I mean?
it worked for the two
Yeah,
women.
and
They
that
both
it did
chose to stay and go. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I'm not 100% bought into.
Okay, you're blowing my mind because now I'm thinking that in any one of these situations there may be a strong real doppelganger relationship that takes over in all of the iterations
Sure.
of this. So it could, instead of being a way for a couple to break up and rejoin, the point could be to get two couples that are having problems
Find their
to
significant
find
other best
another
part of.
person. No, to find another person to live the rest of their life with, whether it's outside of the house or whether it's within the house.
Right, but the point for me was that, when he was apologizing for cheating on her, the doppelganger was,
Yeah.
he was saying everything she wanted to hear.
But he didn't even cheat on her. But it doesn't
Right,
matter,
but that's
yeah.
the point, though. He's
Yeah.
the best version of
But it's
her husband.
fake. He's been coached into saying.
See, that's
that.
why I'm not so convinced I like the ending part.
Yeah.
That's why I thought it was what would have been more interesting for me. Although, so be it for me, because it was really interesting. We just spent an hour and a half or 45 minutes of the hour and a half show talking about it,
Yeah.
as one subject. So it's totally interesting. But I thought maybe it would have made more sense in the long run if it had been a rip in time or some kind of weird metaphysical thing where there was a parallel universe only in this guest house. There was moments in time where space and the space-time continuum didn't really exist, so you could see a good version of yourself. So yeah, you're right. He was faking it the whole entire to get out.
But then what the doppelganger wife says is, I think he's actually starting to fall in love with her. So at some point he's gonna transition from fake to real.
Think she made that up.
Oh,
I think she made that up
because she wants to leave.
Well, this is her way out, but she's really in love with the real husband.
With
Yes.
the doppelganger husband or the real husband?
The real husband. The fake doppelganger.
That's why she wants to make. That's why she wants to make him breakfast and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Okay,
She's in love with
so
him.
the only person.
And she's so in love with him that at the end she forgets her facade. She
forgets
has
the
played
bacon
the part.
part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and forgotten that they don't eat bacon and eggs or bacon. Yeah, and she's like, why not? Let me do this, because that was what the fake one said.
Yeah.
Fascinating, dude. Fascinating. Because I'm completely confused at the same time. I'm fascinated at the same time. It made perfect sense at the same time. It didn't make sense.
I think that after one or two more viewings, I'll be able to determine hopefully we'll be able to determine what the filmmakers wanted, and then we can see, because just because what the filmmakers want is out there doesn't mean that you can't reimagine what's going on.
Oh, no doubt. Songs are like that. Songs
Yeah.
can be about a specific event for the songwriter, but yet you can personalize it. That's what makes great music great music.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's do a redo
Okay.
on this show, a part two, and talk about it after a second.
We'll call it the two I love.
Yes. Yes, why not? Why not? Okay, you call it that because you're the doppelganger, and I'll call it the real title because I'm the real one.
Okay.
Anyway, but we'll watch it a couple more times or one or two
Yeah.
more times, and then we'll come back and we'll revisit it. And I'll bet you $1 million this film is this interesting that we'll be this perplexed even after 2 or 3 watches. I bet you we'll come up with a whole bunch of different versions of what
Yep.
we thought, and we're going to still go back and forth about not being sure or it's strange. It affected me, but I can't verbalize
Well,
it.
and like what you said about bringing up Memento earlier, if I would have done a podcast, if there were podcasts back then, when Memento came out, after the first time I saw it, and then after the third or fourth time, they would be not completely different. They would be different because there's a lot of things you do not catch the first time.
Yeah, Inception's
in a
like
lot of
that
those
too.
movies, yeah.
Yeah, Inception's like that too. Well, anyway, this is definitely one you should watch. I'm interested to hear what people think about this. I read no reviews. I'm interested,
Yeah, I didn't either.
and I'll bet you they're really good and really bad. I bet you some people thought it was really pretentious and really over the top, and who do they think they are? Yada yada. Now, are these brothers, or is this organization that you were talking about Mumblecore or whatever?
Well, I think that's kind of like a bad, they don't necessarily say, "Hey, look, we're doing Mumblecore movies," but that's the
I kind of like
label.
it. I get that. Did they make that film about?
safety not guaranteed.
Yes. How great was that? Here's what I'm going to say, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about this film and Safety Not Guaranteed. They went there. You're thinking this is going to have to pan out. Safety Not Guaranteed, especially, is going to have to pan out one way, not the way that it really goes. They really go there, and they go there in this one too. So good for them.
Definitely. All right. I was just looking up Safety Not Guaranteed just to make sure I know that, they executive produced that movie. Once again, didn't write or direct it. So, but they know where to find these things.
They're smart.
Yeah. People come to them with these interesting premises.
Yeah, it makes you feel excited about watching movies. It makes you feel that much more intelligent because you're using your mind at the same time you're using your heart, at the same time your soul is really thinking deeply about it. So they did it for me on this one.
Yeah, that was great. All right, well, if you guys want to check us out on the web, our website is actorandengineer.com. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/actorandengineer. And on Twitter, we're @actorengineer. So we'll see you next week.
Until then.
Bye.